she has joined, or she decided to participate in the global health area first of all, and your career evolution and what kind of experience you have had and what triggered in the first place. We would appreciate it.
Okay, yeah. Thank you very much for your kind introduction. I am a primary care physician, and then I started to be interested in medicine when I was in elementary school. So during the class, I saw the documentary about the Mother Teresa or Schweitzer, and then you know that the people who are working in the developing countries or refugee camps, and then I started to be interested in, I'd like to do something like the marginalized population. So at the same time, I also saw the documentary movie about the Medicine Sans Frontiers, Doctors Without Borders. And then I know the medicine as one way to contribute to this kind of the marginalized population. So at that time, I decided to be a medical doctor. And then after I entered into the medical school, I started to join the volunteer activities in the low and middle income countries, like in Asian and African countries, and starting doing some volunteer activities, providing the care to the children or those who are living in a refugee camp. And then I noticed that providing the direct medical care is also very, very important to this kind of population. But at the same time, I feel like the healthcare system or health system intervention is also very important. So that's why I also started to be interested in the public health, not only the clinical medicine, but I also noticed that the public health is also important. So I decided to move the career to the public health field. Yeah.
I see. And when you say public health, about whether the reforming the institutional organization or setup and things like that, can you explain?
Okay, I think the clinical medicine is not very simple. So at the healthcare facilities, the
Okay.
physicians do one patient, but in
Yes.
the public health is a very diverse definition. So if you define the public as the entire population in Japan, in that case, I think the Ministry of Health is an organization that are responsible for the entire population of Japan. But if you define the public as the Tokyo areas, in that case, I think the Tokyo metropolitan government is in a place to doing the public health activities in Tokyo metropolitan areas. Or if you are interested in anti-population on the globe, I mean everyone who are living on the earth, that case maybe WHO or any international organization who are targeting for the anti-population on the earth. I think this kind of organization is in a place to doing public health activities.
I see. I believe that the topic of health has become such a hot one because of this COVID-19. And all of a sudden, the people who were not that much aware of the importance of health, all of a sudden, because they can't go out or they can't do a lot of things which they used to be able to do. So all of a sudden, that health has become such an important issue and significant issue. Has it impacted anything in terms of, for example, the number of people, young people who are interested in the health or global, or are there anything different in terms of the career selection? I don't know, maybe it's too early to tell.
Yeah, I think it's definitely having a good impact for the young generation. So before that, as you mentioned, people that does not really care about their own health, especially those who are living in high income countries. But after COVID-19, I think that everyone started to be interested in the healthcare or their own health status. So I think a more younger generation started to be interested in somehow involved into the health sector activities, like not limited to the public health, but also in clinical medicine or other any type of the healthcare activities. So I hope because very few people are joining this global health arena. So I hope the more younger generation are interested be in the global health and the public health, and then be joining our team. I mean global health.
Why do you think not too many people are interested and yet and have become aware of the importance? But when it comes to what do I do if I join the global health, or what kind of career can I think about? So, if for that purpose, can you share with us your sort of career background and the evolution, how you have come to this stage?
Okay, yeah. So after graduate from the medical school, I started to work in one of the private hospital here in Tokyo. And
Mm.
then after that, I entered the Ministry of Health or Health and Labor and Welfare here in Japan. And then I also got the Master of Public Health in the Harvard University. So I think I mean, of course, working in the healthcare facilities, you need any kind of healthcare background. But I think working in the Ministry of Health or working getting the Master of Public Health, you do not need to do any healthcare background. So the one of the uniqueness of Japan is that usually public health is under the Faculty of Medicine. So the people believe that if you like to do or get involved in any public health activities, people believe that they need some medical background. But in other countries, like in the EU or United States, the public health is not under the Faculty of Medicine. So the public health is independent from the Faculty of Medicine. So when I was in the Harvard, half of the student does not have any medical background. They were not physicians, they were not nurse, but they are coming from very different background. So like they are now here in Japan, we have lots of public health, graduation school of the public health, and then most of the public health school does not require the medical background. So if you are interested in the public health and global health, but do not have any medical background, but still you have an opportunity to learn about the public health.
Oh, I see, I see. I don't think too many people are aware of that because you think that the medicine and medical school is such a big sort of big item. You know,
Yeah.
to have a certain type of stereotype image, and
Yeah.
it's very difficult to get to. It's expensive. It's a very closed sort of area. So even though you are interested in public health, in terms much more of the movement and campaign, as I understand it,
Yeah.
and to make it better, to make the better world in terms of the health. Not too many people feel that they can do that without the medical
Yeah.
qualifications.
Yeah.
So it seems like I think that's a very important piece of information.
Yeah. I actually doing the consultancy work at the WHO Western Pacific Regional Office now, and then we have the total of 17 members, but only 2, including me, have the medical doctor, and then the other 5 does not have any medical degree. But they have Master of Public Health, but they does not have any medical degree like physicians or nurse, but still an opportunity to work in the World Health Organization.
I see, I see. So tell us a little bit about how you see the WHO and other organizations, which is perceived to be sort of in charge or responsible, more or less, for the global health. But it seems like there have been a lot of changes, and it means that there is a potential to bring about the big change. And my question is, who could lead, or I wouldn't say who could lead, assuming that this is one person or one country. What kind of power or what kind of community do we need to move the global health forward? I mean, we can think of the Gates Foundation, which has played a significant role. And so is that the kind of thing that we need, or what would be what I mean, I don't think we have any one particular solution. I think we need to have a combination of different things, and probably we need to try to see which one works.
Okay, yeah, thank you. This is a very, very important point. So although WHO is now largely criticized by the many countries and many organizations, but still WHO is a very, very important organization, especially for the low and middle income countries, because the WHO has a long history to supporting the healthcare system in the low and middle income countries. And then they have a very strong connection in the Ministry of Health in each country in the low and middle income countries. So if the WHO stopped doing any activities in these countries, I think the least developed countries, I mean, some African countries and the South Asian countries might face the large difficulties. So I think they are, and anyway, I think they are for the developed countries like G7 countries or Japan. I think we usually does not get any benefit from the WHO because we have the capacity to do healthcare activities by their own. But in some countries, those who do not have the capacity to manage the healthcare system by their own, I think WHO is still very important organization. But at the same time, as you mentioned, WHO now facing lots of challenges. One is the political challenges mainly between the G7 countries and then China. So yeah, this is one reason. And then the another reason is that the emergence of the private actors, like the Gates Foundation or any other Rockefeller Foundation or any other private foundation of private companies. So the WHO recognize the importance of the private actors, and then they are looking for the way to well collaborate with these private foundation. But the point is that how we ensure the transparency or accountability or fairness to the member states countries. So the WHO, they have the almost 200 countries. So if the Gates Foundation, now the Gates Foundation does not have any voting right, and that they can join in the voting board member meeting, but just as an observer. So the Gates Foundation does not have any voting right. But if we allow the Gates Foundation to the making voting rights, so the food Gates Foundation accountable for, or what is the transparency mechanism, including the private sector, as one of the very, very big challenges. And then another important point of the United Nations, including the WHO, is the fairness among the countries. So like the United States or UK or Japan, or also the very small country like the Pacific Island, we all have the only one voting right. In terms, we are very kind of equal.
Right.
But if we allow to the private foundation, the private sector to more than joining into the United Nations or any governing body meetings, I think how to secure this kind of fairness is another challenges. But of course, only the public sector does not dealing with the health challenges, including the COVID-19. So of course, it is very important to looking for any way to well collaborate with the private sector and private foundation. But it's still, I mean, ongoing the debate, what is the best way of the governance of the global health. But this is a very, very important big agenda currently discussed inside of the WHO. And then the second question about which organization or which country can take the lead in the global health. This is also the very big agenda. And then in fact, this discussion started soon after the Ebola outbreak in 2014. At that time, WHO was also criticized by the traditional donors and then also the developing countries. But before that, WHO was the leading organization in the global health. But if we hand over this position to the other organization, but which country or which organization have the capacity to keep maintaining to keep providing the technical advice, but also to keep the fairness or transparency with this kind of the aspect. But of course, we discussed China option as a China or Gates Foundation or any other G7 countries, but still we do not have we did not get any consensus.
So what role can the private sector play? Well, the reason why I asked that question is that I think for the global agenda, the government and United Nations and all these international organizations have a role to play, and yet when it comes to the actual experience, resources and things like that, the private sector has a lot of those and the experience, but they still need to make some profit to continue. So that's always the dilemma. But for like health, pharmaceutical companies are the ones who are playing the significant role. But so what kind of role does do you expect the private sector to play? And what are the sort of advantages as well as disadvantages?
I think I think one of the keyword we often use is the health in all sectors. So
Mm.
of course, the pharmaceutical company or medical device company, this kind of the health sector company always interested in the health sector, but the other companies who are not, I mean, belongs to the health sector, sometimes that's not really interested in the health sector. But if we would like to attain the population health, I think the only health sector alone cannot attain the population health, but also the surrounding areas also need to be a collaborate. So for example, like the now the top disease burden is not in the communicable disease anymore, even in African countries, like the diabetes or cancer or hypertension. These are non-communicable disease or lifestyle related disease is the top leading cause of death, even in the African countries and Asian countries. But in order to tackle this kind of lifestyle related disease, we need to collaborate with the food sector, like the how to collaborate with like the McDonald's and Coca-Cola, or how to collaborate with the another food industry. So like the but food industry sometimes does not really interested in the population health. And then we encourage them to be more of the get involved in the global health. So like the any kind of the private sectors, even their main products is not the health products, but I think there isn't a many opportunity to collaborate within the health sectors. So like health in all sectors, we often use this word to encourage the other sectors to get involved in the public health.
Yeah, when it comes to the health and the things that the private sector can do for the health, I mean, they can start off with the employees, workers that work for their companies, and if the people are not healthy, their productivity goes down. And I think we have that healthy management or health management, something like that. And it's clearly if you are not healthy enough, you cannot really work, you can't concentrate, your productivity goes down, which has been a big issue anyway. So I think that's in that sense, every company, every organization, every one of us is very much related to health.
In the area of the global health, I'm especially would like to do something for the marginalized communities or those living in the refugee camps. So I doesn't really care about which organization I would like to belong. So I doesn't care my next working place in the WHO or Gates Foundation or any other bilateral organization. But as long as I can get involved in the something like I can contribute to the marginalized population, any organization would be fine. So I'm always looking for the better working place, a better working opportunity. So if any good opportunities are coming up in front of me, I may shift my working place. But my ultimate goal is to contribute to this kind of the marginalized population. So as long as I can do something for that kind of population providing the health care or doing some public health intervention, I'm totally fine with any working place.
You mentioned marginalized population. Why marginalized population? I mean, this is sort of a basic question, but I just kind of wonder out of curiosity.
Okay. Does not have a very, I feel it's not fair because they were born in developing countries or just they are born in the poor household, but they does not have an equal opportunity with other population. Like I'm very lucky because I was born in Japan. So I have those who are living in Japan, usually we are not suffering from the having food or we are not have difficulty to going to school, but just because they were born in the developing countries and then you do not have the chance to go to the school or you may have some difficulty even having the food. I feel like it's not fair. So like as a responsibility, as a responsibility who are living in the rich countries, I feel like I should do something about those who are born in how to say unfair condition. So I'm mainly interested in the developing countries, but at the same reason, I also have an interested in the marginalized population here in Japan. So now we have marginalized community here in Japan, like those who are foreign nationals or those who are living in a poverty household here in Japan. So I also interested in do something for this marginalized community in Japan as well.
Who are these? Just those who are in living in the poor housing, or what about like single mothers?
Yeah, single mothers and single household or LGBTQ or those foreigners, foreign nationals, and then the how to say disabled population, and then the also the poor household. Yeah, I think these are the major minorities in Japan, I think, and then also, of course, the ethnic minority.
Mm-hmm. And are these marginalized population in Japan? Are are they marginalized and get the unequal, not fair treatment in terms of health?
And the system, we are secure. I mean, Japan have the universal insurance coverage.
Right.
So those who are living in Japan at least 3 months, they have equal access to the healthcare facilities. So theoretically, they have the equal access with the majority of the Japanese population.
Right.
But in reality is that if you cannot speak Japanese, it is very difficult to go to the healthcare facilities and have a good quality of the treatment in healthcare facilities. Or if you have the Muslims, I think the very few hospitals can provide a good quality of care for the Muslims because the way healthcare professional does not have any training how to treat the people with the Muslim population. So we does not really know what kind of the point we need to be very care for the Muslim population. So they are in terms of the quality of care, I'm not really sure. So the physical access to healthcare facilities, yes.
Yes.
My population hasn't access to healthcare facilities, but quality of care, I think they does not have the equal quality with the majority of the Japanese population. United States or European countries that were not really aware of the risk of the COVID-19 in February or March. And then they said this is just the matter of the Asian countries. And then even the COVID-19 patient happened in their country, in the UK or European countries, they believe that they could manage COVID-19 well. I think the preparation is very different between the Western society and the Asian countries. So I think one reason is that why Asian countries for good control of the COVID-19 is the better preparedness. And then the second reason is that I think the US or European countries have a very strongly confident in their healthcare system or public health policies. So they believe that because they have lots of experience, they have the capacity, so they believe that they could really well manage and handle the COVID-19. But reality is that COVID-19 is very different from the previous pandemics. So that's why the developed countries are also very suffering from the COVID-19. But the Asian countries, because they know their limited capacities, and then they are not really confident in their healthcare system, public health system. So like they are often change their public health system or how to combat COVID-19. They quite often change, and they introduce good technologies and new technology and new ideas. And then they often change in this, healthcare infrastructure so often. So I think this kind of the flexibility or resilience of the healthcare system is a good success point in Asian countries. But US or European countries and sometimes in Japan as well, we are stick to the previous healthcare system or previous public health intervention or past experience. So that's why we are sometimes hesitate to introduce the new technology or transform the healthcare system. So I think this is the cause some delay and the controlling the COVID-19.
I see. That's very, very interesting because we thought that we were successful and we have the things in place. We're sort of off, we're protected more or less, but the environment and the virus itself is different.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. Let me ask you, medical and you have followed this global health. If you were able to do it all over again, would you still do the same thing? What kind of career would you like to follow?
Yeah, I think I definitely choose the same career because I feel like I'm very lucky that I could find the best working place, the best job for at a very early stage of my life. So I started to be interested in the global health when I was 10 years old, or 11 years old, and I have not changed my career or my future goal since then. So I think I was very lucky that I could meet what what I'd like to do in my life at a very early stage of my life. And then now I already involved in the global health for more than 10 years. And then still I feel like this area is very interesting. And then so I think this is for me, I think the global health is the best place for me to I work on. So yeah, if I can go back to the elementary school, I definitely choose the same career.
Okay, that's very nice. Let me ask you another question. And if you were given two things that you could make happen, what would you like to do?
Okay, one is I'd like to increase, I'd like to increase the more, how to say, friends and coworkers who are working in the global health area from Japan. So when working in the global health, sometimes the country does not matter, but sometimes the Japan, other countries are, Japan is famous for its longevity. The highest life expectancy, and then also the high technology in the healthcare field, like the medical device. So I think we can share many good lessons from Japan with the other countries, including the infectious disease control. So in order to collaborate more, in order to share the Japan's experience, including the good lessons and also the bad lessons, I'd like to increase the more are people who are working in the global health area from the Japan.
I see.
This is the one thing. And then the second thing is that I expect the Japan or Japan society to utilize the COVID-19 as a good opportunity to transform the society. So the COVID-19 is of course crisis to everyone living on the earth, including Japan. So everyone is suffering from the daily life and the economy. But I think at the same time, COVID-19 is an opportunity to change our life before and after the COVID-19. So as I said, the Asian countries experiencing the COVID-19, some of the Asian countries are very good in transforming their society before and after the COVID-19. So they actively introduce the good technology or actively change their society, like an education system or working system. So when we discuss about new normal in Japan, we only to discuss about how to prevent an infectious disease. But I think we need to do more broader lens to think about what is the new normal or new life. So not only just limit to the infectious disease control, but how we can version up our society or how we can create a better society for our next generation. So the second point is that I expect the Japan or Japanese people or Japan society to utilize COVID-19 as a good opportunity to make a better society.
I see. What do you think are the obstacles to address the second point? I agree. I think we can. I think we can use it as an opportunity, and yet I still see quite a bit of resistance. And I know some people who are all for it, but it still is. To me, it's not huge, and we need to. There are some obstacles because we tend to sort of like to go back to good old days when and there isn't any good old days. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think the major obstacle is in the people's mindset, especially for the older generation. Right? This is usually the manager class in the big companies. Yeah. I think how we can how they can change their mindset is one of the biggest obstacles. So but I don't really expect these people to change their mind. So rather I expected a younger generation like the 20s and 30s and 40s, or this kind of population who have an open-minded. They start to change their society, but yeah.
I see. Probably the best thing is that to older generation to leave as soon as possible, and so that we